What happens next is that I have been talking since 2017, the end of 2017, about the other side of the story. And nobody much appears to care, but I hope you will find some interest now, that the FISA warrant issued against Carter Page, based on a dossier prepared by Christopher Steele, is at a minimum disturbing. Whether or not it's illegal, I don't yet know. So I'm going to get answers to this. If no one else cares, it seems to be Republicans do. And that's sad, because if the shoe were on the other foot, it would be front page news all over the world. The double standard here has been striking and, quite frankly, disappointing. I am 100% convinced that if the Republican Party had hired Mr. Steele to go to Russia and investigate Clinton, and the report was prepared and given to the Department of Justice, used to get a warrant against a Clinton associate, and the underlying information in the dossier proved to be garbage, everybody in the world would have it on the front page. It would be endless chatter on the cable networks. I'm also convinced if the agents involved in investigating Clinton, if the shoe were on the other foot, hated her and wanted Trump to win, we'd be having a thorough discussion. I'm also convinced if they interviewed Trump with a couple of his associates there, not under oath, and already made up a decision not to charge him, that there would be outrage in this country. So the rule of law applies both to Republicans and Democrats. And why do we have a special counsel? In rare circumstances, to have somebody outside the Department of Justice to take a look at a hot topic. I know the president did not believe that a special counsel should have been appointed. I do. It was clear to me that Jeff Sessions was part of the Trump campaign. And when it came time to look at whether or not the Trump campaign did anything wrong with the Russians, it's impossible for Jeff Sessions to render a verdict because he was part of the campaign. That made eminent sense to me then and now. What makes no sense to me is all the abuse by the Department of Justice and the FBI, the unprofessional conduct, the shady behavior. Nobody seems to think that's much important. Well, that's going to change, I hope. I've been calling since the end of 2017 for a special counsel to be appointed to look at whether or not the FISA warrant process was abused for political purposes, whether or not a counterintelligence investigation was opened up regarding the Trump campaign as a backdoor to spy on the campaign. I still to this day am at a loss to explain why nobody went to President Trump to tell him there may be some people in your orbit that are connected to the Russians and working with the Russians. A counterintelligence investigation is designed to protect the entity being targeted by a foreign power. In Dianne Feinstein's case, she had somebody working with her that the FBI suspected of having an inappropriate relationship with the government of China. They told Dianne about it, and she let the guy go. That's the way it's supposed to work. How did it fail and break down here? Was it a ruse to get into the Trump campaign? I don't know, but I'm going to try to find out. As to the Clinton email disposition, why did Comey do what he did? Why did he take over the investigation in July, make a statement that she did a lot of bad things but not quite a crime? That did affect this election. And if the shoe were on the other foot, Republicans would have been pretty mad about that. What was the conflict that made Loretta Lynch so unable to preside over the Clinton email investigation? Was it just a tarmac meeting, or was it more? I believe there was more there. and I intend to get to there. How could in October, right before the election, we find out that emails on the Clinton server wind up in the hands of Anthony Weiner, and just within 48 hours, everybody's good to go? This is bizarre at best, troubling to its core from my point of view. So Mr. Mueller has been given a chance to do his job. 2 years, 19 lawyers, 40 FBI agents, 2,800 subpoenas, 500 people interviewed, 230 orders for communication records, 13 requests to foreign governments for evidence, $25 million or more. That is what happened to the Trump campaign. And I've been okay with that scrutiny from day one. When it comes to the FISA warrant, the Clinton campaign, the counterintelligence investigation, it's pretty much been swept under the rug, except by a few Republicans in the House. Those days are over. Going forward, hopefully in a bipartisan fashion, we will begin to unpack the other side of the story. So what I'll do, and just real quickly, I'll start and work backward. The FISA warrant application on 4 different occasions. What role did the dossier play? Was it the primary source of the information given to the court? Was it supplemental? Was it outcome determinative? I want to hear from Mr. Orr, why he warned people that you may not want to rely on Christopher Steele. I want to know the role that Comey played in this process. I want to find out, was the only reason you recused yourself was because of the tarmac meeting with Loretta Lynch? I want to find out, what were the rules about a counterintelligence investigation? What kind of defensive briefing did you give to the candidate, if any at all? So those are the kind of questions I want to know about. Well, what I want to do is see if he'll appoint a special counsel. I fully realize that the oversight role of the committee is legitimate, but we're Republicans, they're Democrats. I'd like to find somebody like a Mr. Mueller that could look into what happened with the FISA warrant, what happened with the counterintelligence investigation. Am I right to be concerned? Seems pretty bad on its face, but somebody like a Mr. Mueller to look at that so that if nobody else, those who believe that the FBI and the Department of Justice were playing politics, that they wanted Clinton to win and Trump to lose, that somebody can satisfy them, that was looked at. There's some people are never going to accept the Mueller report, what I say, or what Mr. Barr does. But by any reasonable standard, Mr. Mueller thoroughly investigated the Trump campaign. You cannot say that about the other side of the story. And what I hope Mr. Barr will do is understand, for the country's sake, appoint somebody outside the current system to look into these allegations, somebody we all trust, and let them do what Mr. Mueller did.